In 1932, in a coal camp in Harlan County, Kentucky, a 9-year-old boy walked to a one-room school with his lunch folded in a square of yesterday's newspaper. Inside that paper were 2 slices of bread and a smear of white lard, dusted with a pinch of salt, and a ring of raw onion his mother cut with a paring knife by the stove that morning. That was lunch. That was every lunch that winter. His father made $2.40 a week when the mine was running, and it wasn't running most weeks. His mother fed 9 people on that money and never sent a child to school without something between 2 pieces of bread. Today, most of us couldn't put a lunch on the table that didn't come out of a plastic sleeve, a foil packet, or a drive-through window. A working man's midday meal in this country now runs $14 for a salad and a bowl he throws away. But here's the twist. The record now says the sandwiches that coal miner's wife wrapped in newsprint fed her family cheaper, longer, and in some cases better than the ones a food company sells you today. And somebody made sure you'd feel like a fool for putting lard on bread. That story is number 1, and I'm counting down to it. I'm Silas Mercer. 7th generation on Mercer Ridge up in the Appalachians. My people settled it in the 1790s and never left. Near every sandwich I'm about to count down, my grandfather Eli wrote into a leather journal, the same one that fed 8 of them off this mountain through the Depression. He made me swear the old ways wouldn't die with me. This is me keeping my word. Before we go on, there's something coming for this country, and the news won't say a word about it till it's already on your doorstep. It comes down to one number, 3 days. That's what the stores hold for you. Your grandfather's pantry held a winter, and the difference was never money, it was knowing. 904 pages of that knowing in one book. Water, fire, curing, canning, the plants that heal and the ones that kill. SilasMercer.shop. Links below. All right, back to it. Some of what I'm about to count down would turn a modern stomach on sight. And some of it, a university quietly proved right 40 years after they told your grandmother to throw it away. Number 14, you'd stare at it in a lunch pail today and wonder how man kept working. Number 6, the United States Department of Agriculture now agrees was better food than what replaced it. And number 3, almost nobody alive still puts it on a piece of bread the way my grandfather did. I'll get there. None of these sandwiches disappeared because they quit filling a belly. They disappeared because somebody got rich the day you started buying lunch instead of packing it. That's not on you, friend. They're good at selling. Before we count down, tap subscribe. Not for me, because we're pulling these old lunches back onto the table, and you'll want the next one. Let's count down from 25. And the question isn't what did we lose? The question is who got paid when we stopped packing our own lunch? And how do you take it back? That sandwich on the plate right there, the one cut on the diagonal with the jelly bleeding through, is where we start. A factory man at the Ford Rouge plant in 1940 carried this to the line for pennies. Peanut butter was 21 cents a pound. Bread, 9 cents a loaf. Jelly cooked from his wife's grapevine out back for nothing. The whole sandwich came in under a nickel and put 7 grams of protein in a working man. Then in 1932, Skippy hit the shelf. In 1958, Procter & Gamble brought out Jif, and they spent 60 years convincing you it was a child's food. The United States Department of Agriculture still confirms 2 tablespoons of that peanut butter delivers the protein of an egg. Bread, butter of a nut, jelly from a vine, fed a shift, cost a nickel. That one they turned into a lunchbox cartoon. The next one they turned into a stigma. When the pantry was bare, a mother in 1955 spread ketchup on 2 slices of white bread and called it lunch. A 14-ounce bottle of Heinz ran 19 cents. Bread, 12 cents a loaf. Ingredient cost per sandwich was 3 cents, maybe 4, and it kept a child from crying at the table. Then Heinz spent the next 50 years selling ketchup as a condiment beside a $9 burger, never as the meal. Nobody outlawed the bottle. They just made sure you'd feel poor squeezing it onto bread. And a hungry child in 1955 didn't. He ate. In the Appalachian Holler in the 1930s, when the sugar bowl was empty, a grandmother reached for the crock of sorghum. Local sorghum ran 20 cents a gallon at the farm gate. 2 tablespoons on a slice of bread cost less than a penny and put iron and calcium into a child that white sugar never would. The sugar refiners of the 20th century and the jam companies right behind them ran sorghum off the American table by making the family syrup look old-fashioned. Modern nutrition labels now show blackstrap molasses carries measurable iron and potassium, and refined white sugar carries neither. Bread, molasses, iron in a slice, cost you nothing. They sold you the substitute. A Depression child in 1935 got 2 slices of bread, a smear of margarine, and a tablespoon of white sugar dusted across it. Sugar was 6 cents a pound, and the whole sandwich came in around 2 cents. It was thin comfort, but it was comfort, and it went in a lunch pail when nothing else would. Then Nabisco, Kellogg's, and General Mills spent the 1950s and 60s selling boxed cookies and sweetened cereal for the same coins, and the plain sugar sandwich died of embarrassment. I'll be straight with you. Nobody's calling it health food, but a mother in 35 quieted a hungry child with 2 cents. That one you'd hand a kid. The next one a grown man ate for supper. First pattern break. Notice something. Every sandwich so far, somebody sold you the replacement, and the replacement cost you more and fed you less. That's not an accident. That's the pattern, and it gets uglier from here. Eli wrote this one in the journal in the summer of '39. 2 thick slices of a Cherokee purple tomato out of the July garden, laid on white bread with a tablespoon of Duke's mayonnaise, salt, pepper. It cost the household nothing in tomato season. Now, a food magazine in Asheville sells you an heirloom BLT for $18, and it's the same tomato your grandmother grew for the birds. Modern nutrition confirms tomatoes carry lycopene the greenhouse ones can't match. Nobody banned the garden, they just paved it. Ripe tomato, white bread, Duke's, salt, done. Down the same summer row, iceberg lettuce, a tablespoon of mayonnaise, a slice of bread folded over. In the 1940s, a head of lettuce ran a dime and made 6 sandwiches. Nothing else. That was somebody's lunch when the meat drawer was empty and the tomato hadn't come in yet. Then post-war deli meat marketing from Oscar Mayer and Armour convinced America a sandwich needed animal flesh or it wasn't a sandwich. It doesn't. Crunch, cool, a nickel. Fed a child through August. Not the Tea Party kind, the Depression kind. Cucumber sliced thin on bread with a smear of butter and salt. A cucumber vine in a backyard patch in 1934 produced 40 cucumbers for the price of a packet of seeds. And a mother in Ohio put them on bread for lunch 6 days a week in August. Then in the 1950s, the packaged pickle industry taught America the only thing to do with a cucumber was drown it in brine and sell it back in a jar. Cool bread, green rounds, salt. That was lunch. Eli wrote this one in '44, and I still put up a winter of it every fall. Cook a bushel of drops from the orchard down slow in a copper kettle with cinnamon and clove until it's the color of leather. 12 pints out of a bushel that cost you nothing but the labor. Spread on bread, it was breakfast, lunch, and a Sunday treat. Then in 1946, Smuckers went national with jars of apple butter for a quarter apiece. And inside a generation, the family kettle was gone. Modern food science confirms slow-cooked apples retain more pectin fiber than the store jar. Bushel, kettle, bread. Fed the winter. Cost you your Saturday. That one you spread cold. The next one, they ran off the stove with a magazine ad. In 1933, a Depression mother in Missouri roasted a small piece of chicken on Sunday, and for the next 3 days she made pan gravy out of the drippings and served it over slices of bread, folded, for supper. Flour was 3 cents a pound. The gravy was already paid for with the bird. A whole family ate for pennies. Then in 1953, Swanson put the frozen turkey TV dinner on the shelf. Campbell's ran condensed cream of anything into every pantry. And Oscar Mayer made cold cuts cheap enough that nobody needed to stretch a Sunday roast into Wednesday. Deglaze the pan with a cup of broth. Whisk in a spoon of flour. Salt, pepper, pour over bread. Supper. Cool that gravy fast. Refrigerate within 2 hours and reheat it to a real bubble. Gravy will grow bacteria on you overnight if you leave it on the stove. That's the part you don't skip. Sliced bread laid in a shallow bowl and soaked with warm milk, salt, pepper, and a pat of butter. Eaten with a spoon or lifted between 2 hands like a sandwich once it's soaked up. It fed farm children in the 1920s before school for pennies a bowl. Then the cold cereal companies, General Mills and Kellogg's leading, spent the 1950s convincing America breakfast came from a box with a cartoon on it. A cup of milk, 2 slices of stale bread, salt, warm. That was breakfast for a generation. Cold leftover beans, a spoon of bacon grease from the tin by the stove, mashed together with an onion and spread on bread. In the 1930s, dried beans ran 6 cents a pound, and a tin of bacon grease was free. Fed a laborer through an afternoon of splitting wood for less than 3 cents. Then post-war margarine and vegetable shortening advertising convinced America bacon grease was a heart attack in a can. Modern lipid research at Penn State in 2018 showed the fat profile of rendered pork fat is closer to olive oil than to the shortening that replaced it. Beans, grease, onion, bread fed a man's afternoon for pennies. That's the last of the mild ones, friend. Number 14 is the one I promised would turn a modern stomach. Second pattern break. And I'll say this once and move on. I'm not selling you fear. I'm not telling you the grid's about to go down. I'm telling you a food company took your grandmother's lunch and sold it back to you at a markup. That's it. That's the whole story. Here it is. The Harlan County boy from the cold open. 2 slices of bread, a heavy smear of white rendered lard, a ring of raw onion, salt. In 1920, in the Pennsylvania coal patches, this was a miner's lunch 6 days a week. Lard ran 12 cents a pound, and a 50-pound hog gave you a year of it. The whole sandwich cost him under 2 cents. Then, in 1911, Procter & Gamble put Crisco on the shelf and spent 60 years running national campaigns telling your great-grandmother her cooking fat would stop her heart. In 2018, Penn State published fatty acid analysis showing lard's profile is healthier than the hydrogenated shortening that replaced it. Now they sell you rendered leaf lard in a boutique jar for $12. First batch of lard I ever rendered. I was 14 and I put the heat too high. Scorched the whole kettle, smoked the cabin out, and Eli made me eat the burnt cracklings anyway. The old man did it low and slow, and here's the part you don't skip. Keep it below 300, never leave the pot, and don't try to render it faster than a summer afternoon. Bread, lard, onion, fed a coal miner, cost him 2 cents. They told him to be ashamed of it. Eli wrote this in the journal in '52 with the word Wednesdays beside it. 2 slices of bread, butter or bacon grease, salt, black pepper, close it up. That was Wednesday supper on a bad month in his kitchen, and 8 children ate it and slept. Cost was under a penny. Then the sliced cheese single arrived, individually plastic wrapped, from Kraft in the 1950s, and America decided a sandwich had to have something in it worth photographing. Not so. Bread and salt kept a family alive on the ridge more than once. Cheap tin of potted meat, 10 cents in 1955, spread thin on 2 slices of bread with a stripe of yellow mustard. 1 can made 3 sandwiches. A working man's lunchbox carried this 5 days a week through the post-war factory years. Then Hormel and Armour started marketing sliced deli meats in resealable packages. And by 1989, Kraft rolled out Lunchables and taught a whole generation that a child's lunch came in a compartmentalized tray. Potted meat still on the shelf. Nobody thinks to buy it. That's not on you. They're just louder now. That one they replaced with a tray. The next one they replaced with a war. 1937, Hormel introduced Spam. By 1943, American soldiers were eating it out of tins in every theater of the war, and their wives back home were slicing it a 1/4 inch thick and frying it in a skillet for lunch. 25 cents a can, 3 sandwiches to the can, 8 cents a sandwich in a year when a fresh ham was out of reach. Fry it until the edge is crisp, yellow mustard, white bread. Then, post-war prosperity made it the punchline instead of the protein, and McDonald's, after 1955, sold the same working man a burger for a 1/4 he could have made at home for a dime. The United States Department of Agriculture still inspects every can. It's safe food. Salt, pork, fried, fed a war. Third pattern break. And I need you to hear this. Every one of these was replaced by something in a package, made by a company you can name, sold at a markup you paid, using an ad campaign that made your grandmother look poor for feeding her family. That's the pattern. If any sandwich in this country belongs to the working man, it's this one. In 1955, a pound of Oscar Mayer bologna ran 39 cents. Slice it thick, cut a small cross in the middle so it doesn't cup, fry it in cast iron until the edges curl into little bowls, stack it on white bread with yellow mustard and a fried ring of onion. 8 cents a sandwich. Fed a shift at the mill. Then, after 1955, McDonald's, Burger King in '54, and Wendy's in '69 spent 30 years teaching that same shift worker his lunch belonged in a paper sleeve on the way home. Bologna, cast iron, curled edges, mustard. Fed the century. They sold him a drive-through. Eli wrote this in the journal in '47. When a Sunday ham was down to a bone with scraps clinging, you ground the scraps in a hand grinder, mixed with a spoon of mustard, a spoon of mayonnaise, a diced pickle, and spread it on bread. 1 ham fed the family fresh on Sunday, sandwiches Monday through Wednesday, and a pot of beans Thursday. Then in the 1960s, pre-made deli spreads in tubs from national brands made the hand grinder look ridiculous. and half of America forgot that the last 4 ounces of a ham was lunch for a week. Ground ham, mustard, pickle, bread, that's the meal. The pâté of the South. In 1935, a mill worker's wife in the Carolinas grated a nickel of hoop cheese, stirred in a jar of pimentos she'd put up herself, a spoon of mayonnaise, salt, black pepper. Cost her less than a dime, spread across 6 sandwiches. Then in the 1980s, Kraft and Ruth's and every grocery chain started selling pimento cheese in plastic tubs at $3.50 a pop. And the homemade batch by the stove looked like too much trouble. It isn't. Great cheddar, stirred pimentos, mayo, pepper, spread on soft bread. Southern universities still list it in their heritage food archives as the Carolina caviar it was. That one they put in a plastic tub. The next one, they never gave you a way to make at all. An egg out of the hen house in 1938 cost the household nothing beyond the feed. Fry it hard in bacon grease with the yolk broken, salt, pepper, slap it on toast with a slice of onion. Fold it. Eat it standing at the stove before the mill whistle. Fed a working man for a fraction of a penny. Then the McDonald's Egg McMuffin in 1972 sold the same egg on a bun for 50 cents. And America paid it. The United States Department of Agriculture still lists one egg at 6 grams of protein and every vitamin except C. Egg, grease, toast, salt. Fed a shift. Cost the hen house nothing. Here's number 6, the one I told you the United States Department of Agriculture came around to. In 1935, when cold cuts were out of reach, an Appalachian mother took last night's leftover pinto beans, mashed them lightly with a fork, folded in a diced onion, a splash of cider vinegar, a spoon of yellow mustard, and spread the mixture on bread. A pound of dried pintos cost 7 cents and yielded 8 sandwiches. Cost per sandwich was under a penny, and 15 grams of protein and fiber in every one. Then Oscar Mayer, Armour, and canned tuna from StarKist made cheap animal protein the default, and the bean sandwich became a memory. The 2020 United States Department of Agriculture Dietary Guidelines now specifically recommend legumes as the healthiest, low-cost protein in the American diet. In Asheville, a hummus and vegetable plate at the co-op runs $14. Your grandmother made a better one on bread for a cent. Last pattern break before we push through to number 1, and I want you to sit with this. Almost everything left on this list, the record now says, was better than what took its place. Not sentiment, not nostalgia, record. A German-American factory town in 1948, Braunschweiger, or liverwurst, 20 cents a pound at the corner butcher, spread thick on rye with a ring of onion and yellow mustard. High in iron, high in vitamin A, cheap because Americans by then were too squeamish to buy the whole hog. Then the low-fat 1980s and the school lunch industry taught 2 generations that organ meats were unfit for a modern child. And Kraft and Oscar Mayer filled the aisle with pink hams and processed turkey. Modern nutrition research still confirms liver as one of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. Rye, liverwurst, onion, mustard, cheap, rich, forgotten. Eli wrote this in 36. When a beef roast went on the Sunday table, the fat and juice collected in the pan under it. Poured off and cooled, that was dripping. Salted, spread on bread cold the next day. In 1936, it cost the household nothing, and it fed a man like a steak because the flavor of the whole roast was in it. Then Crisco and Wesson convinced America that saved animal fat was filth. It isn't. Chefs at the Culinary Institutes today serve rendered dripping in cast iron bread service and call it French bistro cuisine. Beef fat, salt, bread. Sunday roast, Monday lunch. Here's the one almost nobody alive still puts on a piece of bread. Salt pork. Heavy cured fat pork belly, 10 cents a pound in 1900. The standard ration for railroad crews building this country from Missouri to the coast. Slice it a 1/4 inch thick, blanch it in a pan of water to draw out the salt, then fry it slow until crisp and golden. Layer it on bread with mustard and onion. A rail worker ate this 6 days a week in 1905 and put down 8 miles of track a day on it. Then Armour and Swift built industrial refrigeration in the 1920s. And by 1950, fresh sliced ham had chased salt pork off every table in America except the Southern bean pot. Salt pork is salty enough to hurt you if you don't blanch it. Cover the slices with water, bring to a low boil for 5 minutes, drain, then fry. That's the part you don't skip. And cook the pork through, not pink. Salt pork, blanched, fried crisp, onion, mustard, built the railroads. A tin of sardines packed in oil, 5 cents in 1932. Opened over a slice of bread, mashed with a fork, black pepper, a squeeze of lemon, or a splash of vinegar. That was a coal camp lunch or a longshoreman's dinner. 2 sardines gave a working man more omega-3 and calcium than a modern supplement bottle sold for $30. Then in the 1960s, canned tuna from StarKist and chicken of the sea outspent the sardine canneries 5-1 on television, and the sardine became a joke on a sitcom. Modern nutrition ranks sardines among the top 5 most nutrient-dense foods in the American grocery store. Tin, fork, bread, pepper, nickel. Number 1 isn't a sandwich. Number 1 is the whole lost competence of packing your own lunch. Every one of the 24 we just counted down was pointing at the same thing. A woman with a loaf of bread, a jar of something she put up, a tin of grease by the stove, and no need at all to hand a food company $2 for a sleeve of anything. That woman wasn't poor, friend. She was fed. She was free. She was beholden to no store, no chain, no drive-through window, no jar with a cartoon on it. She could put a lunch in a child's hand every school day of the year for the price of the flour. And the record now confirms that lunch beat what the food companies sold her son. The Harlan County boy from 1932, the one whose mother wrapped a lard and onion sandwich in newsprint on $2.40 a week, he lived. He fed his own children. His grandchildren are the ones a food magazine now charges $18 a plate to serve his mother's tomatoes back to. Somebody got very rich the day her kitchen went quiet. This isn't about a sandwich. This is about a table. The one your grandmother set every day of her life, from scratch, from a pantry she filled herself. That table's still there, friend. It's just waiting on somebody to sit back down at it. Let me be plain with you before I go. I'm not your doctor, and I'm not selling you fear. This isn't grid going down talk. This is a man on a mountain telling you a food company took your grandmother's lunch and sold it back to you at a markup. And the record backs him up. That's it. So pick one. Just one this week. Not all 25, just one. Fry an egg in bacon grease and put it on toast Tuesday morning before work. Save the grease in a tin by the stove. Mash a can of pinto beans with an onion and a spoon of mustard and take it to work Wednesday on 2 slices of bread. Slice a tomato Sunday and lay it on white bread with a spoon of mayonnaise and see if you don't remember something. I put up a run of apple butter this fall the way Eli wrote it down in 44. 12 pints out of a bushel of drops off the tree. Fed me clear to spring on nothing but the apples and a Saturday afternoon. Tell me down below, which one of these did your grandmother or grandfather make? What did they hand you in a lunch pail that nobody hands a child anymore? The one that gets the most comments is the one I count down next. Your grandmother packed every one of these. You buying your lunch at the drive-thru? So does half the country. Ain't your fault they're good at selling. Now they're yours again. Next time up on the ridge, 25 forgotten poor man breakfasts. The one my grandfather ate every morning of the Depression for 2 pennies and a match. The one the cereal company spent 30 years running off the American table starting in 1949. And the one your great-grandmother made with a cast-iron skillet and nothing else. If you're new here, this is what we do. We pull the old ways back onto the table. Subscribe if that's the work you want to keep watching me do. Keep the old ways. They kept